Hey guys, Dr. Mark here from Rainier Chiropractic Clinic in Yelm, Washington. And as promised, I wanted to do a video to follow up the detox that most of you completed at this point. A few of us completed a couple weeks ago, but I wanted to make sure the majority of people had already finished the program before we finished this detox video, kind of sharing some more information with you and as much of the feedback that I've received from all the patients that have done this. So for those of you that haven't done this yet, we'll be doing more of these in the future. I'm looking forward to doing one 3-week program throughout the year, and then usually 6 months later, do a follow-up 2-week program, keep the gut nice and healthy, keep the liver detoxed, and to continue to move forward with our health. So for those of you that are at home watching this and completed the program, just wanted to say congratulations and thank you for participating. Like I said, we'll be doing more of these, so please check it out. At the end of the video too, I'll mention it again, but I'd like for any of you that have requests, that want to see more videos, more patient education, we're going to be doing some over the next few months. We're going to shoot for a monthly health talk within the clinic. We're just trying to figure out the logistics of that and the space to do it. So hopefully we'll be starting those soon. But if you guys want any videos, please feel free in the comments section or to email me personally. Most of you have my email. I'll give it again throughout this. And just anything that you'd like videos on health and nutrition, chiropractic, anything you'd like, and I'd like to be able to do that for you and for this community. So just to follow up with some of the feedback from some of our patients, we had some great results throughout the detox. Some of the big ones, we had quite a few that lost a few pounds. Detox, generally the big thing isn't towards weight loss, but it's towards increasing the metabolism, increasing the function of the thyroid. Overall, detoxing the body will eventually lead to weight loss and good weight loss. Weight loss over time is always going to be better than in a short amount of time. You're more likely to keep the weight off and keep your metabolism high so you can keep losing weight while keeping your energy up. So another big thing that we saw was a lot of people said that they had a decrease in the amount of fatigue they had, so they had a lot more energy. And this often happens though, is when you clear out the body, you start to actually use the nutrients you're taking in a whole lot better. So that's a pretty normal thing, and I've seen this all the time when we do detoxes in offices. Quite a few people too noticed that they had clearer skin. And whether that means just the occasional breakout, or if it means that you actually had, maybe some eczema or psoriasis that you saw clearing up, perfectly normal thing. Generally, those are modulated by GI dysfunction. So if there's GI dysfunction, a lot of times eczema and psoriasis tend to flare up quite a bit more. So for those of you that have those out there, detoxing and cleaning up your diet, cleaning sugars out of the diet is the big thing. Well, actually, you'll see a reversal of those symptoms and for those rashes and stuff to start to clear up. Another thing that we saw, like I said, we had some patients that said that they either didn't need their acid reflux medications anymore. They had better GI motility as far as like movement throughout the colon, less constipation, less diarrhea. So those with irritable bowel syndrome or ulcerative colitis, we saw a decrease in the symptoms of those. And so that's pretty normal as the GI function starts to improve. And that'll continue on even after this program, after the 3-week detox is over as well. And I'll explain why in just a minute. We also had a few patients that had great reductions in headaches. One patient actually hasn't had a headache since they basically got through the first 4 or 5 days of the detox, when you're a little more likely to have headaches. But they haven't had one since, and they've kept the gluten out of the diet and kept the sugars really low. So that's been a huge benefit, and that we typically see with a lot of patients as well. One of the other things though that I think is the absolute greatest though, probably every single person who I talked to either came in as a patient or has emailed me, has said that they plan on sticking with some sort of dietary change. Whether it be they finished the program and found a food that they were finding out was inflaming them or causing them to be tired or fatigued, or whether they just decided that they didn't need certain foods in their diet. I know a few people that are just going to go gluten-free because they feel so much better without it. So all the better, and that's going to be such an increase to your health for the long term. And that's what we're really after in educating our patients. And I always come back to this thing, and we got to remember that our body and our health is always, we're either moving towards health or we're moving towards disease. And so when we do detoxes and stuff like this, we're moving towards health. And when we just kind of let our body get stagnant and we start to choose other lifestyle choices, we see ourselves go more towards disease. And so for those of you out there that completed the detox and just, this is a great thing to add into your daily lifestyle once in a while, whether it's once a year, once every 3 or 4 months, a couple times a year. A great way to clear the toxins out of the system and start to increase your health. And I feel like overall today we live in a society where people have actually kind of accepted that disease is a part of it, and they figure, oh, well, there's a drug for this or a drug for that. And the fact is, there really is, but it only covers up the symptoms. The drugs aren't intended to treat the cause. So, there's been a lot of great things said about using food as medicine, and there's plenty of quotes on that. And just wanted to tell you that that is the truth. You take care of your life and take care of your health, and overall you're going to feel better, you're going to need less medication through the years, and you're going to live longer and happier. So moving forward from this though, the detox ended, and I know a lot of people either chose, a paleo type of diet, or I mentioned like Primal Blueprint, which is very similar, or they've just decided to just kind of not eat those inflammatory foods as often. So maybe they want to have, a hamburger, or they want to have a couple beers here and there, or whatever it is. But those foods that we generally kind of should shy away from, they're okay in moderation. But it's when that becomes a daily lifestyle, stopping at McDonald's for the, greasy food, French fries, your Chinese food restaurants that have a lot of MSG in the foods. They're all things we want to stay away from for the majority, and then every once in a while when we have that stuff, our body knows how to react with it. But what a lot of you are going to notice is the results of this detox are actually going to continue on long after the detox ends. And the real reason is because when you take all the inflammatory particles out of the diet and let the body start to heal over that 3 weeks, you're going to see a great change. And the biggest thing is your digestive system, your GI tract, or I'll often refer to it as your gut. And what we talk about is the gut actually starts to repair. The gut will repair itself. You have these mucosal cells that line your intestines, and basically they're able to regenerate very quickly when there's not a lot of stress on the body. So if we can find a way to take the stressors off the body, maybe increase meditation, start exercising, we clean up our diet, we do a detox, or maybe do these 3-week type of detox programs where we can really reduce the amount of inflammation that we're putting in our body for that amount of time, and our body can actually turn over cells. It's not just our liver that's regenerating, but it's actually our GI tract is starting to repair cells. And a lot of people that had like ulcers and stuff, they're getting less symptoms from it because the ulcers will actually heal in the stomach if you give it time. Let's look at why GI tract is so important health-wise. So let's look at a healthy GI tract first. So your GI tract is basically a tube. Looking at your intestines, for example, your small intestines is where you absorb most nutrients and most materials into your body. So you have your food particles that have been broken down by the stomach, and then they start to get passed through, let's say, your duodenum, or your upper part of your small intestine. Now within this part of the small intestine, you have what we call villi. And it kind of looks like this. They kind of look like finger-like projections or folds in this mucosal lining. And the reason for that is the more folds there are, the more surface area. The more surface area, the greater absorption of nutrients. So let's say this is what a healthy mucosal lining looks like. Only small particles can get in through the folds and be absorbed into the intestines. And the larger particles that aren't broken down enough end up getting passed through until they're broken down enough to be able to either get absorbed or excreted. Now in an unhealthy digestive tract, or some of you may have heard of the phrase leaky gut. So leaky gut is basically these junctions between these mucosal cells get farther apart, and that's why they call it the leaky gut. And so what starts to happen is these large molecules, and whether it be large carbohydrates or proteins, where we should just absorb sugars, disaccharides, polysaccharides, small monosaccharides, little sugars that are basically digested, or proteins in the form of amino acids, but they should be really broken down to small particles. Now when we start absorbing large particles, that's where they're starting to look at all the research and saying this is contributing to autoimmune diseases. Because your body actually, so what's going to happen is they're going to get absorbed and then these get into the bloodstream. And the bloodstream doesn't recognize them, and so it starts to attack them. And what an autoimmune disease is when your body's attacking itself or attacking things that it should recognize. And so that's the big appeal to increasing your gut health, because when this tends to happen, you aren't going to absorb nutrients as well, and you're going to be more susceptible to diseases, especially autoimmune diseases. So kind of moving forward with that, this can actually help we can get from here back to here. Your body just needs time to repair and a lack of stress on the body to get here. So why is this GI tract so important? Like, why scientifically is it? Well, the fact is, if you look at our nervous system, or what we like to call in chiropractic our master system, you're basically given all the innate intelligence. You have the capacity to heal from anything, to be able to digest your food, to be able to live life, to be able to, kick a soccer ball. Everything you do is modulated by this brain, the spinal cord that travels down here, and these nerves that go to these organs. Now, you see the organs out here, your heart, your lungs, and then we get into like the intestines, what we're talking about. These organs have no intelligence by themselves per se. It's actually the fact that our nervous system modulates how these react. So if I cut this nerve that's going to the heart will eventually stop beating basically, and you'll die. If the brain shuts off, you'll be pronounced clinically dead. But what happens if, let's say for this intestines here, I actually just put maybe a blockage on this nerve, put some inflammation around it, or, maybe a subluxated bone that's causing irritation to that section. Now, we may not get, to where this gets shut off and completely dies, but if I'm only getting, let's say, 50% of the information going to and from the small intestine to my brain, am I going to get sicker, or am I going to get healthier over time? Yeah, we're going to get sicker. So these organs can actually start to break down without the proper nerve function. That just lets us know how important our nerves are to our body, and that's why as chiropractors we're constantly adjusting the spine to actually affect the nerve function to organs. A common thing, people always come in for pain, but when we actually start to adjust the spine, they'll notice other symptoms. I had a patient just the other day tell me that after 2 weeks of adjusting, he no longer needs acid reflux medication. He was taking acid reducers every night, and he said he hasn't had them in 3 weeks. So, and we were just adjusting the mid-back here. So really cool. But the nerve tissue is why we know that it's so important. And 50% of all the neurons or nerves in our body are actually within our intestines and our gut here. So 50%, and that's including your brain, your spinal cord, all these nerves in your body, 50% come from this gut. So that just lets you know how important our design was and how important the nervous system and your digestive tract works together. So if 50% of the neurons are coming from there, that kind of gives us meaning to, when you hear, I had a gut feeling. So when you get nervous or anxious, I mean, I don't have to tell you out there that some of you may get like an upset stomach or just start sweating and all these things. Your stomach just churns and feels like it's cramping when you get nervous. And that's because there's so much tissue that's common between your brain and your thought patterns. And when you get nervous and you get stressed, and then it basically causes these organs to kind of seize up and say, hey, I need to, stop function for right now. So what else does our GI tract do? We talk about it digesting food. The reason it digests food is so that we can have energy from it. We basically absorb all the nutrients throughout this gastrointestinal tract, and that's why, what most people know that it's important for. And that's a good reason in itself, just enough to keep it healthy. One of the other ones that most people don't realize is that our immune function is completely modulated, controlled by our intestines themselves. So our immune system is basically made up of how our body reacts between the good bacteria and the bad bacteria. So if I have a bacteria that I ingest through maybe some tainted drinking water or something, my body has to form an immune response. And if I have this army of healthy bacteria versus the small army of unhealthy bacteria, I fight that off and I get healthy a lot quicker. And so we talk about this. Your body actually has 5 to 9 pounds, somewhere between 5 and 10 pounds almost, of healthy bacteria. So that's kind of interesting because most people wouldn't think that we have that much of our body weight is actually living bacteria that's healthy. And so, I don't have to ask how many out there, but just about everybody listening, I'm sure, has taken at least one dose of antibiotics in their lifetime. Now, if you've taken more than one, you can see how taking 2, 3, maybe 10, there's some people out there that feel like they've just been ill throughout their life and have taken a lot of antibiotics. Antibiotics kill good and bad bacteria both. And so what starts to happen is your body gets this imbalance now, and that's called dysbiosis. So it's just basically meaning that your good bacteria is no longer outweighing your bad bacteria that you get in your body. And that's where it becomes really easy to be sick. And so the people that, are constantly medicated are often constantly getting sick a lot more because they never are given that chance to start to build the body's natural defense systems back up again from the last time they got sick and they were given antibiotics. And so we'll talk about probiotics here in a little bit and how important that can be to the body. Now, what else does the GI tract actually do? Another one of the big functions, it actually produces 90% of our serotonin. For those of you that don't know what serotonin is, it's the feel-good hormone or neurotransmitter. It's the one that all the antidepressants are trying to modulate and change. So your SSRIs, or selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, basically are trying to convince your body that there's more serotonin in it than there actually is by blocking the reuptake of the serotonin. So your body has this kind of influx of serotonin as if you were producing more, so it causes you to, have that antidepressant effect. Now, 90% of it's actually produced in our intestines. So you see often when people are sick and they start to get down and then they get sick and they get more down, and it's really hard to get out of that cycle because our body actually will stop producing the amounts of serotonin that we need until we actually start to increase the health to our GI tract again. Now, your body also uses your GI tract to tell your body what to absorb and what to pass through as toxins. Like we talked about here is the fact that everything basically has to travel into the digestive tract. It goes down your esophagus, into your stomach, and then gets into your intestines, and that's where most of it's absorbed. So if it's a product that we're going to use for energy or use for growth or repair, then our body absorbs it. If it's a nutrient or antioxidant, it's going to absorb it and it's going to get into our bloodstream. But if it's a product that we either don't know what to do with or we just know that it's a waste product, we push it through the right means, through the liver, maybe through the kidneys, out through the urine, or whatever the case is, our body has to have the health of this. Or we start to see absorption of more of the toxins rather than flushing them out. Now, another interesting thing is, I just wanted to bring this up because I just thought of it, but those of you out there that maybe got sick during the detox and you also noticed that you lost a good amount of weight, we did have 2 people that said they actually got sick towards the end of the detox, which is completely normal, especially if you're losing body fat. So you should be happy about losing body fat if that's what you're trying to do. But what actually happens is, like we talk about here, if your body doesn't know what to do with something, there are products that, some of these artificial sweeteners and artificial products that go through our body and we actually don't know what to do with. And our body, just like, a closet or a cabinet, we just store stuff. And the way we store stuff is we push stuff into adipose tissue or fat tissue. So a lot of times you'll see these toxins actually get trapped in the fat cells. So then when we start dieting really hard and we're losing weight, you'll actually start to break down these fat cells and the toxins will get expelled into the body. And if your immune system's compromised, if you're in the state where you're changing your diet and there's a little bit of extra stress on your system, now it's a little bit easier for this flood of toxins coming out of these cells, and it can be stuff that you've stored 10, 20, 30 years ago just getting flushed out into the body, and the body's just got to do its thing and it's got to flush it out. So for those of you that got sick, that does happen from time to time. Seen where patients, said they ingested some pills like years and years ago, maybe with they used to take silver pills back in the day. And so back in the day, taking these silver pills, the body didn't know what to do with it because it's not a normal mineral. So the body would actually store some of that. And then what they'd see is when they detox or they start to really lose body fat, the urine would look really cloudy, and they're like, well, what was it? And then, someone would tell them, man, remember you took those pills, 20, 30 years ago. So the body really does hold on to stuff and kind of expel it over time, especially when we start to break down. So that's good. That means your body's detoxing. So what else can we do? We talk about the importance of this GI tract. And so what else can we do to increase the health? We did the detox. So like I said, 1 to 2 times a year is good for a detox. That's enough to take the stress off the system. You can do it more if you want, but this is about all your body's really needing if you're eating a healthy diet, exercising. So eat healthy foods. I just read a study the other day that said that after you ingest sugars, you actually have decreased immune function for 8 hours. Now, if you think of it this way, let's say I was going to travel and I get to the airport, a couple hours early, and I go to Starbucks and I get that, double caramel macchiato with extra whipped cream or something on it, and just the amount of sugar in that. And so I'm going to ingest the sugar, and I got a 5-hour flight to go home to see my parents or something. And I'm on this plane with, people that are sick, people that our immune systems are compromised. And now I have all this sugar in my system and my immune system's low. And we start to wonder why do I always get sick when I travel? So good reason to, dump the sugars, for breakfast, that's a big thing. Kids go to school, teachers go to teach every day, and they, maybe have a bagel or a glass of orange juice or something with breakfast. And then they go where there's a lot of people at their job, and they're more susceptible to see, illness because of that too, because their immune system's actually a little bit lower. So really kind of an interesting study. And like I talked about a little bit ago, probiotics. Probiotics are a great thing we can do in addition to help heal this up. So we talk about the breakdown of good bacteria to bad bacteria, that dysbiosis or imbalance. So the way that we kind of fight that off is at least once a year, I do probiotics for a month. I go get, and it depends on the person. And for those of you that have never done them before, I'd start in like the 10, maybe 15 or 20 billion organisms per capsule. So you'll see, like, it'll say how many cultures there are in each capsule. So, and you can get anywhere from 2 billion up to, I think, 75 or 100 billion. And, sometimes you can get some GI kind of upset, gas and bloating on the higher end of those. But if you kind of stick to the lower middle ones, I'd usually start at like maybe a 10 or 15 billion culture per pill. And then we can kind of go up from there. But right now, yeah, that's typically what I do at least once a year, just to make sure that my good bacteria is always outweighing my bad bacteria and that I can keep my immune system up. And so also, we should exercise. If you're not currently exercising, start out really light. Exercise can be such a great thing for the immune system, great thing for your GI tract. It keeps motility going. And so even if it's just starting out walking 5-10 minutes a day, we have patients that have, severe knee pain or back pain, or, they're getting through stuff, or maybe they're really trying to lose weight and they're pretty heavy and they're like, I can't, walk for 25-30 minutes a day. And we say, you got to start somewhere, so get out there and just walk for a few minutes. So, set your goal that I'm going to walk 5 minutes in one direction, then I'm going to turn around and I'm going to come back, and then I know it's exactly 10 minutes. And I would recommend that everybody gets up to walking about 30 to 45 minutes every day. Exercise is one of the greatest things for your brain, especially walking. Walking causes what we call cross crawl, meaning that basically your arms and legs are working together in order to drive your brain. So just like when you're crawling as a kid and you're developing that brain tissue, you do the same thing as an adult. So it keeps your mind sharp and it keeps your body just kind of regulating. Those that are patients of ours know that after an adjustment, if you go for a walk, you're going to hold your adjustments a lot longer. And that's because of that patterning that's going to the brain. So exercise is going to be huge. And like I just mentioned, getting adjusted is what I'd consider the number one thing that you can do for your nervous system as well as this GI tract. Now, we have so many nerves that basically go from the spine out to our GI organs, our small intestine, our stomach, and keeping all of this healthy. And just like the example I gave earlier, the guy that got adjusted for a couple weeks and now he doesn't need his medication for acid reflux. I mean, these are just examples of how important that nerve innervation is. Now, if he had these joints that maybe weren't moving as well in that upper and mid back, if there was like a kink in the back, let's say, it doesn't even have to be this big, but you can kind of see how if there's a curve here, we're going to be putting a little bit more pressure on some of the nerve roots and some inflammation around here. So whatever these nerves go to, we're generally going to see a decrease in health and a decrease in function. So adjusting that part for him actually helped with his stomach and the amount of acid that was coming up. So therefore, if we adjust some of these lower ones that go right to the GI tract, then we're going to see an increase in health to those organs. And the important thing to remember is these organs can't generally tell our brain that there's pain or damage. There's just supposed to be this constant communication back and forth. And if I turn that way down and that's really slowed down, these organs are going to get sicker and sicker over time until the first warning sign might be a heart attack, or it might be needing to get a gallbladder removed. So it's not always that it's about, knowing that there's pain there and coming in and getting adjusted. It's getting adjusted so that the nerve flow back and forth to your brain is healthy. And so that's why as chiropractors, we always leave that as like the number one thing. And so throughout this, though, we'll be educating on, not just why to get adjusted, but why to do detoxes, why to eat healthy. And, by all means, if there's any subjects that anybody else wants me to cover, I'd be more than happy to, jot them down, and I'll drop an idea board, and then I'll talk through it, and I'll put all these videos online so you guys can watch them and learn. And I can go into as much detail or as little detail as you guys want. Hey guys, just wanted to wrap it up with a couple last thoughts. And for those of you that know me really well at this point, been in patients at the office or otherwise, you know that I'm passionate about a few things. I'm passionate about adjusting the spine because adjusting the spine is ultimately where the interference lies to our nervous system that keeps the rest of our body healthy. It's the master system. We call it that for a reason. We adjust the cause in chiropractic. We don't chase the symptoms around. We go right for the cause of the disease. And so we're really passionate about that here. And the other thing that I'm really passionate about is just knowing that, throughout educating and throughout adjusting and throughout, teaching about exercise and nutrition and detoxing, everything that we're doing, we're basically leading our community towards a better health and further away from disease. And we can always go back and forth, and ultimately I always want to be going towards health. Now, for me, getting adjusted once a week, that's my maintenance schedule. If I'm getting adjusted once a week, I'm exercising 4 or 5 times a week, meditating daily or daily prayer. These are all things that are going to lead towards health, eating healthy, detoxing a couple times a year, taking my probiotics, taking my vitamins and fish oils. These are all leading me towards health. Ultimately, you always want to be going this direction towards health. And, when you consume alcohol, when you consume, processed foods, when you're not working out, you're not getting adjusted, you're not, you're taking medications, your body's going towards a disease state. And we always want to be getting healthier and growing and repairing. So we always want to be headed this direction. So for those of you that are crawling down this road, please come back to this side. I'm going to educate you throughout the time that I'm here at Rainier Chiropractic. I plan on being here for a long time. So we're going to do a lot of lay lectures, and we're going to talk about health. And I want to create the healthiest community and the healthiest patients possible in this state and, in this part of the country if we can. And just through continued education and through continued, commitment to your health and to chiropractic and to, adjusting and exercise and everything that those aspects are of health. So I just want to say thank you again for tuning in. Thanks again for doing the detox with us and making it a really successful experience. And just know that we're going to be doing these a couple times a year. So for those of you that didn't get to do it this time, I actually have all the information and in an email. And people can still buy the products at Rainier Chiropractic Clinic in Yelm. And so what we can do is they can start this whenever they want and watch the videos in order, and I have them labeled, you know, before the detox, end of week 1, end of week 2, I think that was it, and then the wrap up. So I'll put them in that order in one email, and you'll kind of pay for it as a package. And that way, if you didn't get to participate and maybe you're seeing this video for the first time, this is still something that you can participate in, and we'd love if you join, and I can add you to the mailing list, and we can kind of go forward from there. So I want to thank you guys for all tuning in, and look forward to working with you guys again soon and lecturing. So please send me your emails and comments. All right. Good night, guys.